Global economic recovery is forecast to be stronger than previously thought, but it's bad news for the UK, where growth will be slower than expected in earlier forecasts. According to the latest projections from the International Monetary Fund, the UK economic recovery this year is going to be slower than previously thought. The IMF has downgraded its forecast for the UK economy in 2021. However, it believes that the global economic recovery will be stronger than earlier forecasts suggested, helped along by the acceleration of vaccination rollouts across the world. According to the latest IMF forecast, the UK economy will grow by 4.5% this year. That forecast is 1.4% smaller than the 5.9% forecast it made only last October. So it's bad news for the UK economy, which the IMF believes shrank in size by 10% last year if official figures do confirm that shrinkage. Then the UK economy would have fallen by the biggest amount of any G7 country in 2020. So while there's bad news for the UK economy this year, IMF forecasts for the global economy expect to see GDP rise by 5.5% in 2021 compared to October's forecast, so that's 0.3% higher. Their improved forecast for the global economic recovery in 2021 is mainly a result of a better outlook for the US and Japanese economies. In the US, the economy is expected to grow by 5.1% this year. In Japan, the economy is expected to grow by 3.1%. Elsewhere, the IMF expects the Eurozone economy to grow by 4.2% in 2021. Commenting on the improved outlook for the global economic recovery this year, the IMF said it reflects more government spending designed to tackle the worst impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. It also reflects a speedier rollout of vaccination programs across richer nations. However, less rosy in the report from the IMF was a forecast that nearly 90 million people will fall below the threshold for extreme poverty during the 2020-21 financial year. Addressing that particular forecast, the IMF is urging governments worldwide to grow their healthcare provision and welfare policies in an attempt to protect the most vulnerable groups in society and also tackle rising inequality between the rich and the poor, which has been driven higher by the pandemic. IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva, speaking ahead of the World Economic Forum's annual summit this week, which is going to be a virtual event, not held in Davos as usual, she said that the pandemic must not get in the way of governments tackling poverty and also the climate emergency. Quoted in The Guardian, Georgieva said, "Building resilience can be good for nature and ecosystems. It can be good for economic growth. At a time when economies have lost low-skilled jobs, it boosts job creation. And the fourth win is that it can bring health benefits, such as reduced air pollution." One of the major risks identified by the IMF in their report was the emergence of new COVID-19 variant strains, which they said could prove difficult to treat and vaccinate against. However, some of the other economic risks appear to have diminished, including, and this was about a month ago, the risk of a no-deal Brexit. The report pointed to the fiscal stimulus coming from the new Biden administration in the US, which is going to pump an additional $1.9 trillion into the US economy in response to the pandemic. There is also massive amounts of state-sponsored investment taking place in China, where the IMF expects the size of the Chinese economy to grow by 8.6% this year. The report said that the upgrade is particularly large for the advanced economy group that reflects additional government support, mostly in the United States and Japan, together with expectations of earlier widespread vaccination availability when you compare that to emerging markets and the developing economy group. So why, despite a fantastic rollout to date of the vaccination programme in the UK, is the IMF so down on the UK economy with its revised downwards forecast? Well, one reason is timing. The IMF doesn't think that the UK's vaccination programme will boost the UK economy until next year, until 2022, at which stage it expects UK economic growth to reach 5%. So it looks like a boost to the UK economy is coming, just not yet. The IMF also commented on worries about rising price inflation, driven higher by economic recovery this year. But the IMF doesn't believe that this will be problematic, and it believes that average prices are unlikely to grow by more than 1.5% over its 2-year forecast period. They do forecast price inflation for oil and commodities, including precious metals. However, this price inflation is forecast to stay below 2019 levels. And these price inflation forecasts all mean that central banks should be able to keep ultra-low interest rates in place for at least a few more years. The IMF said in its report that services trade is expected to recover more slowly than merchandise volumes, which is consistent with subdued cross-border tourism and business travel until transmission declines everywhere. As a result, the IMF believes that the global economy will grow by 8% this year and then by a further 6% in 2022. Despite these new forecasts from the IMF, it's always worth keeping in mind that economic recovery is not necessarily correlated with stock market returns. An economic recovery following the devastating economic impacts of the pandemic last year is a reasonable expectation for 2021, but do keep in mind these are only forecasts and nobody has got a crystal ball, not even the International Monetary Fund. Based on these forecasts, it's likely that it's going to be towards the end of next year before the size of the UK economy is restored to its pre-pandemic peak. What will be particularly interesting to see is the shape of that economic recovery and whether it's a smooth ride, especially if further lockdown measures are needed this year throughout the year as new variants of the coronavirus are discovered and potentially cause trouble for UK society. What do you think about these new forecasts from the International Monetary Fund? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching this video. Are you already part of our subscriber community here on YouTube? If you are, thank you for supporting these videos. If not, click on that little red subscribe button to become part of our subscriber community. It's completely free and you'll never miss an episode. Until next time, I'm Martin Bamford, and remember, when it comes to your money, the more you know, the faster it can grow.